Hello, welcome to the audio recording of Radio Blah Blah. But before I start, as it's Christmas, I decided to appear on camera and show myself reading the book. Just gonna show you these two picture books first. After Hours, Pirate DJ's Life in the 80s, with Colin Kennedy. I'll be reading this book as well on audio, and I'll be doing a review later on once I read it. And also this little book here from Mr. Brian Kennedy, Just for the Floodlights. So I'm gonna start reading that pretty soon. But now, on to the business at hand. I'm going to go for part 3, and for a change, you're going to see me on camera reading the book. Got a few decorations up there. Got the book. So once again, just reading the parts that Brian Kennedy wrote. Here we go. Radio Blah Blah, audio reading part 3. By this stage, most tasty music were catered for, but there was still room for one more country. Half the nation may be bopping to Blondie, jamming to the Jam, and dancing to Depeche Mode. But the other half had Big Tom, Margot, or Johnny McEvoy on their turntables. George Collins would be the DJ to remedy this. The George Collins show tapped into the country. Colin Kennedy's roots in pro rock saw him land the Monday Friday rock slow slot, played everything from AC/DC to Kansas and beyond. Again, with only 2 major television stations, radio became an even bigger outlet for kids in the early 80s. And it wasn't being listened to on air, it was being brought on tape and vinyl. By this stage, neighbouring counties had embraced the world of pirate radio. In Cork, CBC, Cork Broadcasting Company, first launched in 1978, was joined by ERI and South East Coast Radio. Wexford had Ultra FM, while both Kilkenny and Carrick and Shore had community radio stations. From Dublin to Donegal, Wicklow to Westmeath, the amount of a legal station ran to over 100. When the Act was finally wielded in 1988, there were still 70-odd radio stations operating in the 26 counties. Monaghan alone had 8, despite more and more pirate stations popping up all over the country. In the early 80s, the laws remained relaxed. It seemed the pirates were tolerated by the government. The occasional raids were an effort to show compliance with the law, but I would suggest a wholesale claim down on the stations, despite what RT would have wished. Théoine Abed became a manager in 1982, while Warford were given his 3rd radio station. When ABC, operating initially out of a carbon in Tremor, joined the airwaves, the station immediately sounded different. A slick presentation, professional jingles, and a structure put in place by English presenters, who cut their teeth on foreign airwaves before they even set foot in Ireland, posed an immediate threat to both WLR and Shoreside. However, Des Whelan reckoned it was just what the doctor ordered. Now spoiled for choice with 3 stations, the city and county would take their pick. But despite having to up their game to deal with Shoreside and now ABC, War for local radio still held a majority of listeners. More and more DJs began making their extra few quid by doing discos in local establishments. The Tower Hotel would host Catch 22, which Rick Whelan spearheaded. The Ardree ran crackers on a weekend. There was Saxon Lumber Street, now the huge youth club movement at the time, which would also require the odd disco. It was a hobby for most disc jockeys when they weren't working their day jobs, but the skills became more in demand outside the studio as well. Still operating with just 2 national stations by the mid-80s, and having swapped the Reardons for Glenroe, RT wasn't exactly enthralling the youth of the country with solid entertainment, unless you were 15 and actually liked watching Billy and Mighty, in which case there was no hope for you. West local pirate radio still outweighed what Dublin was sending over the airwaves. However, our national station did draw a whole new audience with the introduction of a clever little show named Music Television USA. Every Sunday, Ireland's first BJ, Vincent Hanley, would greet us all from Times Square to Los Angeles, and bombarded us with videos from artists in a faraway land that we've never heard of. Van Halen, Prince, Toto, Hall & Oates, ZZ Top, and unfortunately, Bon Jovi. Entered the living rooms of every teenager with music videos for a solid 3 hours. Whoever went out on the radio on a Sunday afternoon slot might not have had any listeners, but the pirates would embrace the music and give the listener what they wanted, either getting the records locally or through mail order. A move to Georgia Street gave the station more room to breathe, A notable addition to the WLR family by this point included Ray Daly, Ray O'Brien, Paul Power, Sean Organ and Bob Houston as well. Female additions Denise Ward and Liz Reddy got their gig without even the need of a demo tape. Their sweet seductive voices didn't need to be recorded. Although Renee was doing his best to promote Irish music and championing the cause of the management by managing local band. I do it again. He's live. And Rowan Renee was doing his best to promote Irish music and championing the cause by managing local band Neuro, a group who would go on to gain a worldwide recording contract. Roddy Clear's arrival from ABC saw him become a torchbearer for Irish music and local bands for the rest of the pirate WLR and beyond. Over the course of the next 20-odd years, the big man championed the cause for homegrown acts, and in doing so became one of the most influential disc jockeys in Irish music. It was a job made for Roddy, and one he revelled in. Roddy's voice was already recognisable on local airways, having spent time at both Shoreside and ABC, before completing the set by coming to WLR. Not that being in a rival station mattered, and besides, a lot of disc jockeys would go between stations faster than John Terry does his teammates' wives. Clear had a passion for his subject, and a loyal following who knew exactly what he was trying to achieve over the airwaves. Another programme which had championed the cause of local artists was the Round Table. An earlier show on the station's roster that Matt Keane fronted, going out at 5 to 7 p.m. on a Friday evening. Matt would bring in local singers like Skinner Flynn, Dermot Power, Skippy Sheridan, and talk about that week's singles releases or albums of the moment, and have a natter about local bands and what they were up to. It helped to keep that important connection with the community that WLR would become known for. The station had built up a strong listenership by this point, possibly the biggest among the three pirates in Waterford. Having started on a wing and a prayer, or rather a transmitter and a turntable in Rick Whelan's garage, WLR had become as professional as any station on the wave band, serving the community's best interests. Money had never been an issue for the staff. The pure love of radio would see to that. Of course, through all the hard work, there were plenty of time for laughter, with many anecdotes recalled by the station's staff. I can read those in the book. This book here. One of the most popular shows that endured on Waterford local radio came from an idea at ABC that was fine-tuned and cut fair later at WLR. Many people can recall drifting off to the smooth sounds of Shay Searson and The Love Zone, the social network of its day for young lovers. The show was widely popular. If you fancied someone, broke up with someone, or were close to desperation because you had no one, it's quite possible you were the love song with your name all over it, played by Shay. I read this bit. Most people remember The Love Zone, which at the time was a massive. That was before iPhones, text messaging, computer games, or video channels. Radio was king, and almost every school kid in Waterford was tuned in. I actually started The Love Zone on ABC, playing 3 love songs each hour, but it came to me when I joined WLR around 1986. The request that came into the studio by hand or phone were amazing. It was like an early form of social network, because that was where you found out who was going out with who, and who was young, free and single. I used to call up to the Marion shop at lunchtime, and my wife and dad worked at the time, and when I returned, the car wipers would be stuffed with requests from the Mercy Common girls. To this day, people of a certain age still tell me they used to fall asleep listening to The Love Zone. I quote upon Shay Searson. Like Shay. When Des Whelan joined WLR to help run the station in the late 70s, he always envisaged that in the not-too-distant future, Pirate Station would find itself faced with much heavier penalties for broadcasting illegally. That a call sweep in the entire country would make most of the well-established pirates obsolete. So as disc jockeys went about their jobs entertaining the public, Whelan was already looking forward to the eventuality of it all. You didn't have to wait long. Stand by for part 4 very soon. Radio blah blah, audio, video, reading by Beta Boy, that's me. Happy Christmas. For more at the Radio Blah Blah channel. And please check out the full video of the launch night, filmed by Brian Kennedy's father. Thank you.